Afternoon, shoppers. Let's have a live chat. It's Wednesday, the 9th of April. It is 5:35 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's not daylight saving anymore. I missed daylight saving already. I got a million emails. Thank you to the emailers. I've got an interesting one here. And waiting for a few people to jump on. People get a bit annoyed if I start all my chat at the beginning and they haven't had time to jump on or find that I'm live. YouTube's a bit slow in notifying people sometimes. But I went to Canberra this morning and got up early. Well, early enough. I was certainly awake early. And drove to Canberra. It took me 2 hours to get there. Roadworks and no one doing above 100. Pretty frustrating. So I had to go into the city and to the Electoral Commission in 10 Mort Street and pay. I had to pay for my nomination, which is $2,000. So I have lent $2,000 to the Australian government for a couple of weeks, 2 months maybe. And I submitted the nomination paperwork. I did a little short video this morning about all of that. And got a receipt for the money. I've got the paperwork lodged. I've had 104 authenticated nominators. They stopped counting, but I was well over. So thank you all very much to all the people that helped me nominate. For those of you shopping at home, you don't understand what it is. We're in Australia. We're 3 weeks out from our full countrywide federal election. And if you want to run as an independent, you have to have 100 people in your electorate help nominate you, as in a nominator. You need 100 nominations from people on the same district as you. So I put out a shout out and I just put the form up on my Facebook and emailed it to people and said, please fill this out and send it back to me. If you go back to 2013, you had to have original handwritten signatures on that form. So you had to walk the streets. It took me days. Now with the Digital Records Act, I can actually have people fill out the form, take a photo and send it to me on Messenger or email, Signal, WhatsApp, doesn't matter. Print them out and they are now acceptable. So that was quite a saving, but I did have to drive to Canberra. In the state election, you can nominate digitally. You don't have to go to the returning officer's office. That's a bit of a difference. So to that end, beer in hand, Dear Andrew. This is from Lisa, who is the Divisional Returning Officer for Eden Monero. Dear Andrew, I am pleased to advise that I, the Divisional Returning Officer for Eden Monero, accepted your House of Representatives nomination today, 9th of April 2025. Public declaration of candidates and draw for positions on ballot paper. Nominations will be declared at 12 noon on Friday the 11th in Crawford Street, Queanbeyan. At the declaration of nominations, your name, town or suburb of residence in the state or territory, so name, town or suburb, will be printed on the ballot paper and will be announced publicly. More information, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll do a ballot draw. And so... Nick Elliott. Oh, can you actually give me 1 sec? I just have to do this call. Hey, Nick. I didn't miss anything. I hung around for a little bit and had a chat with the trainer just to get a bit more scope on her brief. I recommended she get a copy of the first report and compare it to events because I said it was, I think it was over-egged. I don't know if she will, but the other idiots kept trying to hang around saying, oh, are you okay to be here? So I think she's got a, yes. 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 Anyway, so nothing else really turned, but my lawyer did speak to Hannah and I put him on the phone and he said, well, what Andrew's done is perfectly fine. It's not a problem. So they won't listen. I Yes, I think you might be right. I think you're right. I 100% agree. It'll be interesting to see what the conversation is tonight in a slightly more unguarded sense, as it were. But it was pretty shocking today. It's not over by a long shot. But let's talk tomorrow in a bit more depth. But cool. Thanks, mate. Yeah, why not? Exactly. See ya. Bye. Sorry, that was. I just had to debrief one of the other councillors from today. All right, so back to the point at hand. We're going to talk about council in a minute. I'm on the ballot paper. So Eden Monero. Oops, sorry, I took the lid off. We're off and running, boys and girls, shoppers. We've got 6 candidates at the moment. We've got a blue, a red, and a green. We've got a Trumpeter Patriots, and we've got Fraser Buchanan for the Heart Party. He's based down the South Coast. He's a good mate of mine. Myself. I don't know if there's any others. I haven't seen any information if there's any Libertarians or Pauline Hansons. If I'm imagining there will be a Pauline Hanson candidate in Eden Monero, but they won't turn up to anything. You won't find them. They'll just be like a fake name or someone that you'll never ever track any details down. Last election, they didn't even have a single online presence. There wasn't a photo, no website, no Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. So Pauline Hanson will probably be running a fake candidate, which is a shame. So that's where we're up to. So we have a Meet the Candidates event tomorrow night in Goulburn. I can tell you it is, for those of you interested, it is, hang on, Business 2580. I think that's what it's called. Connect, explore, and grow. So 2580 is 2580 is the postcode. Current confirmed is the red, the blue, Fraser, and myself. That's who's confirmed so far. It is. Oh, hang on. Our questions have been submitted electronically. Where's the address? Meet the candidates, Goulburn Golf Club, 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Goulburn's new into our electorate. They were formerly in the electorate of Hume. They're now in Eden Monero. So welcome, Goulburn. There'll be 3 facilitators. They'll ask the questions and you get 90 seconds to respond. No candidate will address any other candidate directly. It's not a debate. All comments will be through the chair. Each candidate will have 2 wild cards. These wild cards can be played at any time and will entitle you to respond through the chair to any statements or comments made by another candidate, but you only have 2. That's interesting. Candidates will be asked both group questions and individual questions, and they also might have follow-ups. All questions will be relevant to the election and the issues the candidate should be across. There'll be no gotcha questions. Damn. And you get 2-minute closing statement. So I think we get 5 minutes to start. Anyway, so that's that one. That's tomorrow night, 6:30, Goulburn Golf Club. And then separately to that, my old friends at Womboyne, Diana, she's off and running, got it organised. Tuesday evening, Womboyne Hall, which is at 112 Bingley Way, Womboyne, starting at 7:30 p.m. to conclude around 9. These are the guys that have wine and beer. They meet the candidates. These guys are pretty cool. The session will be opened by Jenny Richards, president of the Womboyne Community Association, and the rest will be moderated by Justin Jarvis, president of the Bywong Community Association. They kind of run together, same area. using the PA, that each speaker will have 5 minutes for their presentation. Q&A session will follow, which will be closely managed. We ask all questions and answers to be as brief as possible. Blah, blah, light refreshments. Light refreshments will be available once the formal part of the evening concludes, and we encourage you to remain for the informal interaction with members of the community. They make a good cake, and they do have beer and red wine. So there you go. We're off. We've got 2 meet the candidates. We've got 3 weeks to the election. It's on the 3rd of May. The problem is our electorate is probably 400 kilometres from top to bottom and 300 kilometres from side to side. It's a big, big electorate. It's love my beers on ice and me woman on fire. Okay. Good on you, Carl. Let me just have a look. Let's say I'll do a distance check. We're going to go directions from Rockton, which is right on the Victorian border. Oops, if I can spell it. Rockton to Maroolin. I meant to do this last night from my own head, but I didn't get around to it. Oh, muzzies. Maroolin. Rockton to Maroolin is 350 kilometres. There you go. Not quite 400. So around about 350 kilometres from the top to the bottom, and let's say 200 kilometres wide. Maybe I exaggerated slightly. I think the old boundary was 300 kilometres, so it's pretty big. Anyway, all right, today, council. Where are we up to? Well, a few problems with our council. We had a training session this afternoon from 1 till 4 with a lady that's been brought in to assist with our understanding of the code of conduct process or framework and the code of meeting practice. And so we had a lot of questions. It was a bit of a lively discussion. There was a few swear words in it. The gang, as we call them, were particularly awful. We had... I got there about 1:15 because I was coming back from Canberra. Narelle made the statement to me, "Your whole life is a lie." And I replied, "Fuck you, Narelle." She actually said that several times. That Narelle's a counsellor. She's awful. Her attitude is, "My whole life is a lie." And I said, "Okay, give me one lie." "All you do is tell lies," she says. I say, "Give me one example. Give me one example." And she can't. I asked the trainer lady for a withdrawal, and the trainer says, "I didn't hear that." Anyway, Narelle made another fantastic comment. "I have concern that new councillors don't know how councils work," which you can translate into the new councillors don't behave on council how I would like them to. But that's the point, Narelle. It's called democracy. We all bring our different strengths, faults, and weaknesses and knowledge. The fact that you want to say that we don't know how it works, no, we don't like how it works. We don't like how you work, Narelle. We don't like your style. We don't like your strategy. We don't like your agenda. We don't like you. And if you're going to say outrageous things to me as allegation, you'll be answered. I'll reply. Happy for you to put in a code of conduct. I'll put one in on you, but I really can't be bothered because the code of conduct system is broken. There's a whole range of other issues going on. It's pretty ugly, and it's causing dramas. So we were supposed to be interviewing our prospective new Mozzies. We're supposed to be interviewing our prospective CEO tomorrow. And this is not really confidential information. It's part of the timetable that we set. And I was hoping that we might be able to potentially agree that one of the candidates ahead of our next monthly meeting. Well, we've had these mozzies, no blood in them though. We've had a few problems, and the interview tomorrow has been delayed. There's been a lot of meddling in the interview process, and I am extremely suspicious of nefarious actions by certain councillors seeking to have an undue influence on where the recruitment process goes, shall we say. So watch this space. It's not easy to say much more, but there's now been legal threats basically made against me. Like, do you think I care? And council is now off seeking advice from lawyers, which they seem to like doing. What's also interesting is that one of my motions for the next monthly meeting, this is the motion to provide legal support or financial support to Matt Badrock and Chris Chan because of the legal threats that they are receiving. The general manager has ruled that motion unlawful, and he's given some bullshit legal advice from a law firm. So I'll analyse that in a bit more detail because I don't think they're right. They then tried to say at the end of that advice that if Councillor Thaler brought that motion, it would be a breach of 3.1a and 3.1d of the Code of Conduct. But then they walked back from that advice and said, well, it probably wouldn't be. So I don't know why they would say that. I shared the letter with the trainer lady, who's an expert in this. She said the Code of Conduct thing was wrong. In a short viewing of the email, it's hard to fully understand, but I don't believe the general manager's right, and I think his legal advice is very dodgy. He would not want me to have that motion in the council. And I think it's important because it's actually a councillor, Tanya Higgins, who is threatening legal action against Matt Badrock or Chris Chan and her whole community. So if that has occurred because of council inaction, because we haven't directed the person to put the asbestos at 298 Michelego Road, if we haven't directed that to be cleaned up, it is the 9th of April. We are 3 days away from it becoming 4 months since I raised the asbestos upon Mr. Badrock's property. And for the new shoppers, there's a dodgy landfill. It's an old quarry that's being filled in. It's supposed to be filled in with clean, virgin excavated natural dirt. And there's tar and there's bitumen, there's concrete, there's PVC pipe, there's all kinds of shit and asbestos now at this site, which in a rain event in early December, asbestos washed in all of the silt onto Mr. Badrock's farm. And this comes off previous events where the silt has washed from the quarry site into Mr. Badrock's farm, which it's strictly not meant to do. And the operator of that site, Mr. Blake Skerry, pumped all the water out of the mine, and it was 300 times above safe levels for aluminium and really high in iron and other metals. It's pretty dodgy. It's been going on for 3 odd years, and Skerry's actually not a very nice fellow. I've had to stand between him, and he was advancing on a woman, and I went and stood in front of him to stop him from attacking her or whatever he thought he was going to do. You can sue me for defamation if you want, Mr. Skerry, but these are all matters of provable fact. But the legal threats against Chris and Mr. Badrock, particularly from Tanya Higgins as a councillor, it's not acceptable. Mr. Badrock is a victim, and the council has still not done anything about this whole mess. And I think it's only appropriate that if Mr. Badrock's going to be threatened legally, or Mr. Chan are going to be threatened legally because of council's incompetence, and it doesn't matter that Tanya is a councillor, she doesn't have the right to falsely threaten. That's intimidation. That's psychosocial bullying. But at its heart, it's intimidation. Council has an obligation to Mr. Badrock and to Mr. Chan that they don't become further harmed. So it's interesting that the general manager steps in and rule my motion unlawful. Haven't quite worked out if he's knocked any other motions out. But I know nothing of Australian politics, but I enjoy knowing that nobody is pleased anywhere. That is 100% true. Nobody's happy anywhere. We're going to move the happiness dial. It just takes a bit of work to get there. So we can laugh about it, but it's not really Australian politics. It's a grudge match. You see, I'm an independent. I'm not in any political party. I'm friends to political parties, but I'm not in a political party, and so I don't have an allegiance or an alliance. I'm very centred, what I would call centred. You could say that I'm slightly right of centred. That's my right. Slightly right of centre, but I generally try to stay a centrist, fairly centrist. I own a solar farm or two. I own a scrap metal yard. I drive a big truck that burns diesel. I'm not into all this climate change numpty stuff, and I reject all the wokeism. I reject the education system and its agenda these days. I kill mozzies. My kids are homeschooled, and I avoided the COVID vaccine. Actually, I didn't avoid it. I campaigned against it. There's another councillor. Can I call you in 5 minutes? I'll just finish my live and I'll call you in 5. A couple of councillors couldn't make the thing today, so I'm just synchronising and getting updates from each other, because the good councillors, we inform each other of what's happened. That's what we do. So Australian politics is a mess, and we are 3 weeks away from a full countrywide election. And vote Labor if you care about the future of Australia. No, sorry. G'day from Wales in United Kingdom. Hello, Wales. We are New South Wales. There's a bit of interesting history you might want to look up there. How the hell did we become called New South Wales? There's a link. This is the Nobel Prize winner, Richard Thaler. Okay. Can they be held personally accountable, or are they covered by council privileges? People's health are at risk with asbestos. I believe they can be held personally accountable. It's something we're working on and exploring. But in so doing, you have to give multiple opportunities for the right thing to be done. So I've been involved with Luke Williamson. We brought a motion seeking an audit of the whole process with the internal auditor. That was approved. That's underway. We have asked also that the contamination be properly referred to the New South Wales Work Safety Organisation. It's a government department, and also to the Environment Protection Authority. The EPA have tried to bounce it back to us, but we as a council are completely unable to deal with it. We are the regulator in the local sense, but we're not doing anything. I buy into climate change to an extent. I believe it's happening, but I think it's a long stretch to assume humans are capable of such drastic change. I find it, yeah, I agree. I find it really interesting because the sea level used to be some 220 meters lower than it is today. So what drove that? It wasn't humans burning coal, was it? You think about that. We're worried about a meter, 1 meter rise in sea level would be catastrophic to our sea level towns. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, New York, they're all at sea level. I think New York's at sea level, isn't it? London. There's a lot of places that are at or near sea level, not forgetting Holland below sea level. But could you imagine the sea 200 odd meters lower? I mean, that as a consequence of Europe being basically covered in a kilometre thick layer of ice or something. But climate changes, but the climate change agenda and hysteria, I have a bit of trouble with it. But I'm happy to operate a solar farm and try to moderate my emissions. But I'm also a big believer in energy from waste, and I don't have a problem with many varying nuclear technologies. Interestingly, we're going to talk about nuclear energy as these meet the candidate events, because I think the Labor Muppets are going to attack the Liberal Muppets and they're going to throw nuclear barbs at each other. I'm the guy with one of my best mates is building a nuclear powered battery in South Australia. Depending on the isotope you use, you could have that battery last for 100 years or for 600 years. He's been developing that. He's also the former chief technology officer from a thorium fission reaction in Norway. So it's going to be an interesting debate because I actually know a fair bit about nuclear energy. I mean, a solar farm is a nuclear-powered electricity generating device. The nuclear reactor is 150 million miles away, or kilometres, whichever, 150 million something away, 12 minutes light travel. It's a safe distance to have a fusion reactor. But my solar farm is powered by nuclear energy. So there is stories about Aboriginal hunting in the middle of Port Phillip Bay 700 to 800 years ago. Yes. Yes. In some of the little ice ages, the sea level would have gone down meters. That's right. And of course, the land bridges to connect Victoria to Tasmania and a lot of PNG to Australia. That's how we had a lot of human migration. Big story. Politics is a mess in the whole world over, yes, Rebecca, 100% correct. And it's only with the participation of the people that we might start to untangle some of these problems and push back on the United Nations agenda, the UNDP, the United Nations Development Programs, the United Nations Sustainable Goals, or UN SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to push back on that shit. But you've got to be in the debate to have the debate. And so I'm on the local council and I'm nominating to run for the federal election seat. We'll see where that goes. If we can flip the seat, blue takes red. It's currently a red seat. Let's make it a blue seat. I don't like the blues. I don't like the reds. I don't like the greens. But when it comes to politics, the power is enforcing change in a seat. And so the seat of Eden Monaro was always known as a bellwether. If Eden Monaro was elected a blue, you'd have a blue government. And if Eden Monaro elected a red, you'd have a red government. Well, I buggered that up in 2013 when I ran, and I've kind of buggered it up ever since as a bit of a wild card, independent. And so we're going to see what happens now. I don't actually think Labor is doing a good job. They're too socialist. They're too muppety. There's too many agendas. There's too many unimproved capital gains tax. If that doesn't scare the pants off you, I don't know what will, but maybe with respect, I say a lot of people don't know what that means. That is a tax on a theoretical profit that the government assesses you would have made if you had have sold your investment, be it shares or stock market positions or property. They could calculate a capital gains tax upon a theoretical profit, assuming that you sold your asset. So, case in point, I'm in a house, we get a unrealised capital gains tax under a Labor government. That's what they want to do. They would say, oh, we think you'd get $550,000 if you sold your house. You only paid $174,000, so there's a capital gains tax, and we're going to hit you for that tax. But we haven't sold the house. But government will assume that you might sell the house and you would earn that profit. We will tax you on the theoretical profit. And then 12 months later, they do that again. And so you get charged an annual theoretical tax. What do you think is going to happen to the value of property in that regard? It's going to crash. Anyway, let's save those chats for a better lit situation. The sun is setting. I'm going to finish my beer. Thank you for tuning in. And here's to Eden Monaro and red losers, blue wins. Ideally, no colour wins, which is me. So, Andrew Thaler, Eden Monaro. Oh, I'd love to sack the 6 gang. That's right. People hear nuclear and assume the worst. I'm not very educated on the subject, but many of my friends in the sciences swear, but it's by its safety, especially relative to what you use now. If you look at the amount of radioactive isotopes, for example, that come out of burning coal, there's a lot of mercury, there's a lot of hydrofluoric acids, there's a lot of nasty shit comes out of the coal. A lot of radon gas is released, it's radioactive. So when you want to talk about more modern nuclear energies with a higher thorium balance to consume or to transmute all of the elements, your fission byproducts have much more manageable half-lives. And it's not like you're making plutonium or uranium with a 250,000-year half-life. You can make a lot more cesiums and things like that, which might only have 12, 18, 20 or a 200-year half-life, in which case they will decay to dirt, is the best description, fairly quickly, and they're not as toxic. So let's have a nuclear conversation at another time. Be really good. I might try and get my mate to join us because he's one of the experts in Australia, and he can tell us about his nuclear battery that he's building. Otherwise, ciao. Thanks for tuning in, and see you at the Meet the Candidates forums or somewhere in between. Thank you.